Welcome to episode 4 of the Learn Dota series, where we're going to go over mechanics, or the numbers behind the gameplay. Mechanics is a slightly misleading word in Dota 2 because we use the word in two different ways. Mechanics means how the numbers of the game function, like how much damage I get from a point of agility as an agility hero. I can also use the word mechanics to say, that player has great mechanics, meaning how quickly and accurately they press their hotkeys, how well they last hit, and physical aspects of the game. For this episode though, mechanics is all about the numbers behind the game. If you want to get good at Dota 2, it helps to understand how the numbers work, like how much value you get from each item purchase. At the end of this episode, you can start making better item decisions with that knowledge, which means you're going to spend your gold more wisely and win more Dota 2 games. To start off, let's talk about attributes in Dota 2. If you guys checked out the Dota Basics Precursor series, we've got a bit of a review here. Attributes are the building blocks of all heroes that help them grow stronger over time, and let us know how fast and in what ways the heroes are growing stronger. All heroes have access to 3 attributes that you'll recognize if you've ever played Dota 1 or Warcraft 3. The 3 basic attributes are Strength, Agility, and Intelligence. All heroes start with different amounts of these 3 attributes, and with each level gained, they gain more of these 3 attributes. To show what each hero has, it usually looks like this. The large number on the left shows how much of the attribute they start the game with, and the smaller number on the right shows how much of that attribute they gain every time they level up. Bigger numbers are better, obviously, because that means more attributes for free. Each attribute provides different bonuses. Strength points increase your hero's health, health regen, and a small amount of magic resistance. Health regen means the percentage increase that you gain from any health regen items or skills. So if you have more strength, you gain a little more benefit from the Tango and Mango regen that you receive. Agility points increase your hero's armor, attack speed, and movement speed. Pretty self-explanatory. Intelligence points increase your hero's mana points, mana regen, and spell amplification. Mana regen is the percentage increase you gain from mana regen items, like clarity potions and bottle. Spell amplification is the increase in damage that you deal with your spells. Every hero in Dota 2 has a primary attribute that categorizes them as a strength hero, agility hero, or intelligence hero. It means that the heroes favor one of those 3 attributes more and get extra benefits from that attribute. For example, strength heroes gain 25% more health, health regen, and magic resistance per strength point than agility or intelligence heroes. Agility heroes get more armor, attack speed, and movement speed from agility points, and intelligence heroes gain more mana, mana regen, and spell amplification from intelligence gains. In addition to those bonuses, for every point in your primary attribute that you gain, you also get 1 damage, so stat bonuses in your primary attribute often end up being much more valuable since you get more benefit per point than other heroes would. So with this new knowledge in hand, we can start calculating the value of various choices in the game. If I'm playing Slark, the agility hero, and I just reached level 10, I can now choose between one of my 2 talents. The left talent provides me with 8 agility, my right talent gives me 10 strength. With my knowledge of attributes, I know 8 agility for Slark, the agility hero, really means 8 damage, 10 attack speed, 1.8 armor, and about 0.5% movement speed. The right talent, 10 strength, gives me 180 HP, 5.5% health regen, and 0.8% magic resistance. Even though the strength talent provides me more raw attributes, I know that my primary attribute of agility gives me more bonus. Ultimately, my decision between these talents will come down to what I want more in my hero. Do I want damage, attack speed, armor, and movement speed? Or do I think it's more important that I increase my health, HP regen, and get a small magic resistance bonus? This is one of the many decisions you need to make in each Dota game based on your position in the game. Maybe the team I'm playing against this game is very burst damage heavy, so having extra health is more important than a little more damage. Or perhaps I know I can get away with less health, so I want the agility so I can kill creeps faster and farm more items that will later on cover my HP issues. Next up, let's talk about the most common damage types in Dota 2. The 3 primary damage types are physical damage, magical damage, and pure damage. Physical damage is the most common, and it's usually dealt with a unit's regular attack. All heroes deal physical damage with their primary attack, as do things like lane creeps, neutrals, and towers. Physical damage isn't just limited to attacks though. Some spells deal physical damage as well, but most physical damage in the game comes from regular attacking. If you want to increase the physical damage that you deal with your hero, the easiest solution is to purchase items that give you plus damage. Damage increased this way shows up as green next to your white number, and it's called flat damage. To To increase the white damage number, known as your main damage, you should purchase items that give you more of your primary attribute. For strength heroes, that would be strength items. Okay, take a deep breath because this is important. I don't want you to get confused later about percentage damage increase buffs. This baby right here is the damage equation. Don't be scared. It's used to calculate how much damage your hero does. The only part that's important to us right now is this part. It shows that a percentage damage increase only affects your main damage, the white number. So if you pick up a double damage rune, it only doubles your main damage, not the green flat damage. If you have an item like Vlad's that increases your damage by 15%, it means 15% from your main damage. Okay, you can start breathing again. We're done with that equation for today. Back to physical damage. If you want to reduce the amount of physical damage you're taking, the easiest solution is to increase your hero's armor. Armor increases your resistance to physical damage as a percentage. The more armor, the more damage is reduced when you're taking physical damage. For example, Ogre Magi has 8.2 armor at level 1, which gives him 29% resistance to physical damage. That means a 100 damage attack will deal 71 damage to Ogre Magi. Another way you can protect yourself against physical damage would be to purchase an item that provides damage block like Stout Shield. Damage block works a bit differently to armor in that it blocks damage thrown at a target. Stout Shield has a 50% chance to block, and when it's successful, it blocks 20 damage on a melee hero like Ogre. So if I'm being attacked by a creep who deals 21 damage, and the Stout Shield procs, then I subtract up to 20, which means the creep only deals 1 damage, which is then reduced by 29% for Ogre's armor, and rounds up to 1. Against heroes, Stout is less effective because their damage is higher. Against a 100 damage hero attack, the Stout Shield will only reduce the damage to 80, which Ogre's armor then reduces to 56 in the end. Next is magical damage. The vast majority of spells or abilities in Dota 2 deal magical damage, so usually you can probably assume that you're taking magical damage when someone is casting a spell that damages you. Magical damage is increased by spell amplification bonuses that your hero has, and the damage you deal is reduced by the receiving hero's magic resistance. Almost all heroes in Dota 2 start with 25% magic resistance, so a typical level 4 spell dealing 300 magical damage will usually be reduced to around 225 damage. Keep in mind that strength points increase magic resistance by a tiny amount, and that there are items and abilities that can change these far more. For example, the item Cloak increases the user's magic resistance by 15%, which helps you survive heavy magic damage. There's also the item Veil of Discord, which when used on an enemy lowers their magic resistance by 25%. Just like armor and physical damage, you can abuse items that alter magic resistance to increase your chances of winning Dota games. The third primary damage type is pure damage. Pure damage is special because it doesn't get reduced by armor or magic resistance, so it can be a good way to damage heroes with high resistances. However, you won't often encounter pure damage, since only a dozen or so heroes have access to it. So despite the fact that pure damage isn't reduced by armor or magic resistances, there are ways to get around the pure damage. The hero Enchantress, for example, uses her ultimate Impetus to deal pure damage. The damage dealt is based on how far away you're standing from her when her regular attack-infused Impetus hits you. The important factor is that it requires her to hit you with her attack. If your hero has evasion to attacks, then your dodged attacks will prevent that pure damage. You could also buy the item Heaven's Halberd that provides both of these solutions. It gives you evasion, but it also lets you disarm your opponent to prevent her from attacking for a few seconds. Or you could buy the item Shiva's Guard that reduces the attack speed of enemy heroes so that she can't attack you as fast during a fight. So even though you can't easily reduce pure damage dealt to your hero, there's almost always a workaround situation through items. So now that you can figure out which type of damage you're taking, you can start building defensive items that provide a solution to that damage. There are many items in Dota 2, and almost all of them give a mix of benefits, so it's not always cut and dry what item provides the best solution to your problem for the lowest gold. Let's get a little deeper into the math. To figure out your current survivability, what you can do is calculate your effective hit points, or EHP. What this means is how much health you have if you calculate in your resistances. For example, if I have 1000 health and 25% magic resistance, we'll find that my effective HP is 1333.33. That means with my current health and magic resistance, it'll take that much magic damage to kill my hero. It also shows us that if I'm a hero with 1333.33 HP and 0% magic resistance, that we have the same estimated HP against magic damage. This comparison is useful for figuring out what items to purchase next for defensive reasons. So what happens if I add extra items to these two functionally the same heroes? Let's say they both purchase a vitality booster that increases health by 250 HP. Ogre 1 goes up to 1250 health and still has 25% magic resistance. That means the health we purchased goes farther because every point of health goes farther against magic damage. Ogre 2 also gets 250 health, but having no magic resistance means he's slightly less effective against magic damage. If we run the estimated hit points calculation on Ogre 1 again to verify, we find that Ogre 1 has slightly more EHP. What this tells us is that Ogre 1 benefited from a health purchase more than Ogre 2. Ogre 2 probably should have spent his gold on a cloak to increase his magic resistance more, because it'd give him comparable EHP while spending less gold on the item. Also, what happens if we're taking physical damage and not magical? Ogre 1 might have 1250 health and 25% magic resistance, but magic resistance won't reduce the physical damage. If they both have 0 armor, then Ogre 2 now has more EHP than Ogre 1. Keep in mind that if the enemies killing me damage half of my life in physical damage, and half in magical damage, then my cloak purchase is half as effective. There's a decent chance that you're confused at this point, so I'll try to give some broad summaries of how you should think about this in a Dota game. I swear it's way easier this way. Remember that you're trying to purchase items that protect against the damage type you're receiving. If you're taking magic damage, you want to purchase items that give you health and magic resistance. If you're taking physical damage, you want to purchase items that give you health and armor. Health is almost always the safer option of the two, but sometimes resistance is far more useful. If you're having trouble deciding whether HP, armor, or magic resistance is what you need, we can avoid the big equations and tell you the principles in an easier to understand way. Against magic damage, purchasing an item like Cloak that increases your magic resistance by 15% reduces the damage you take from that source by 15%. So if a 100 damage nuke is normally being reduced to 75 damage, having a Cloak on top of your base resistance will result in that damage being 63.75 damage, 15% less than 75. Magic resistance reduction works the same way. If Veil of Discord is used on you to reduce your magic resistance by 25%, that means they deal 25% more damage. Instead of dealing 75 damage after reduction, it instead does 93.75 damage, 25% more. Spell amplification can be seen the same way. Let's say you grab a talent that increases your spell amplification by 25%. Rather than throwing a 100 damage nuke towards the target, it's really a 125 damage nuke because of spell amp. That 125 gets reduced by 25% base resistance, and we again get 93.75 damage dealt. One way that spell amp and magic resistance reduction aren't the same is against barriers. Barrier is an active from an item like Hood of Defiance that puts a magical barrier over your hero. The way it functions is similar to Stout Shield against physical damage. That means the damage thrown at the barrier is blocked by the shield before magic resistance comes into play. That means that against barriers, magic resistance reduction is weak because it doesn't get applied until the barrier is broken. Now what makes magic resistance truly tricky is when you stack multiple sources. The way the math works is that stacking gives you multiplicative benefit. That means that calculating your EHP against magic damage when having base magic resistance, a hood, and a cloak gives you extra benefit for each piece you buy. It works the same for magic resistance reduction. On the hero Pugna, his skill Decrepify lowers magic resistance by 60% at level 4. If you also purchase a Veil, then added together, they result in you dealing double damage with your spells. What's interesting is how these two paths converge. Using Veil plus Decrep will increase the damage a hero takes from magic by 100%. However, if the hero taking the damage purchases more magic resistance, then the initial damage dealt is lowered. So if Little Crystal Maiden here is sick of dying and purchases a pipe, the initial damage dealt to her is lowered to 47.25 instead of 75. Then when the amplification doubles it, she only takes 94.5 damage instead of 150 damage. The damage is still doubled, but there was less damage to double, so this shows us that magic resistance reduction from heroes like Pugna is countered by magic resistance. The easy principle is still purchase magic resistance and health against magic damage heavy enemies, but against magic damage heavy enemies that also use magic resistance reduction, it's extremely important that you purchase magic resistance to limit those benefits. Armor and physical damage work in a similar way. The general armor principle is that if you're only taking physical damage, each point of armor you gain increases your health by 5%. That means if I have 1000 HP and I purchase a chainmail which gives me 5 armor, then I can effectively take 250 more damage than I could before the chainmail. Pretty straightforward, but you also have to remember that armor functions a bit differently than magic resistance, because the benefit provided changes a bit based on where your armor is at. The way the armor equation works is that if enemies reduce your armor below 0, they get extra damage from each armor reduction point, more than 5%, so make sure that you build at least some armor against armor reducing heroes. If you're above 0 armor, then the 5% principle holds for each point of armor. If I have 2000 health and 20 armor, and my enemy reduces my armor down to 15, then they're reducing my effective HP bonus by 25%. In this case, I would only be able to take 3500 physical damage before dying instead of 4000. So if you're concerned about large amounts of physical damage dealt by enemy heroes, then build more health and armor and make sure that it's above 0. If you're so behind on armor and health that you can't even begin to catch up, you could also purchase a utility item like Ghost Scepter. When used, it makes your hero ethereal. It reduces your magic resistance by a huge amount, which is dangerous, but you also can't be attacked or take physical damage while it's active. In many cases, that can be better than armor. In the next Learn Dota episode, we're going to go over the other definition of mechanics, which is hero manipulation. That's abusing the tricks in the game that you learn to get more benefit from your hero and give you an advantage inside the game. See you guys there!